I can't tell you, I can't tell you everything that went through my head, but I do remember thinking like, this is not how this is going to end. Like, this is not going to end like this. This is going to end different. And I don't know why, man. I was just like, if I can just move, if I can move anything, I'm gonna get out of this water.
Welcome to the Men's Alliance podcast. Men's Alliance is a growing movement of tribes across the nation that meet weekly for rugged outdoor workouts and a real-world devotion around a fire. If you want to be a part of what we're doing, join us at men'salliancetribe.com, where you can find a tribe near you or come to one of our Start the Fire weekends. So check us out at men'salliancetribe.com. Now stay tuned for this great podcast. Welcome to the Men's Alliance podcast. I'm Dave Mills, Goose.
Hey, I'm Dusty Parker Shadow.
And with us today, we've got
Skol Frankenfield, call sign Skol.
Skol. Welcome to the podcast, man. Good to have you here.
Great to be here. This is awesome.
So we were just saying one of the really neat things about this podcast today that's a little different is I do not know Skol's story. And so I am every bit as excited to hear this podcast as you guys are and just get to know a fellow tribesman. And, you know, Chief from Bravo Tribe, Chief was like, you got to get Skol on the podcast. So he scheduled him, and here you are. And I'm just taking his word for it. I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, what better way to get to know a guy over a cup of coffee, and we'll record the conversation. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here.
And, you know, this is really one of those like one question podcasts, right? Tell us your life story. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, we just love to hear your story, as Baptists love to say, your testimony, right? And you know, kind of in that, how you found MA and how you got that cool call sign. So
Sure.
Take it away, brother.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me here. This is awesome, and glad to share share about myself. So growing up, you know, for me, I grew up in a Christian home, went to a Christian school. I grew up in the church, and along with that, you know, I heard the gospel at an early age, and that was just part of everyday life in school, in church, and attending every week. And I remember, you know, I'm a middle child, right? So as a middle child, you want to make everybody happy. You want to be your people pleaser, and that for sure was me. And I think my faith started to develop with this false belief that I just had to be good. And I remember in sixth grade that changed for me. We watched, you guys remember it, the Left Behind movie.
Oh yeah.
Left Behind movie, and there was a scene where a pastor is in his empty church.
Yeah.
And he is alone with a couple of, you know, he's by himself, and he says something to the extent of, you know, I taught it every week, but I never really believed it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I remember that. That's a powerful scene. I know that scene.
Yeah. And for me, that really just struck a chord of kind of why am I trying to be good? You know, is it just because I think I'm good enough, or do I believe, you know, that I'm sinful, right? Am I acting out of that belief? And so I made that decision to follow Christ, to accept Christ as my Savior as a sixth grader. You know, I think I fully understood that at that age. And then I got connected with a group, Young Life. I don't know if you all are familiar with Young Life.
Yep.
But I was in Young Life in high school. And, you know, it's an evangelical organization going after kids who otherwise wouldn't hear the gospel. And I just thought, man, this is so important. You know, this is important for me to be a part of something that is an organization that's reaching lost kids. And that was something that I was involved in all throughout high school and into college. I went to JMU, go Dukes, undefeated. We'll see if we get a bowl game. And led Young Life there. And I remember in my time there just what a powerful effect that organization had on me. You know, I was part of Wildlife, which is middle school, so it's wild. And I remember at first my freshman year, I'd been in the organization. I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to continue with it because, you know, you're figuring out who you are. You're stepping out of your parents' house. You're stepping into your dorm and figuring out what's important to you. And I just remember, you know, gaming with one of my buddies, and he went off to class, and I was gaming afterwards. And I just remember the Holy Spirit saying, like, as I was playing this game, like, hey, look, none of this matters. Like, this game doesn't matter in eternity at all. Like, what are you doing? And for me, I was like, that's the Holy Spirit convicting you in that moment. So, you know, I kind of jumped into that ministry all throughout college. And by the time I reached my my senior year, I was going to be leading this team of wildlife leaders. It was 5 of us. We had just started at a new school my second year at JMU, and God was doing cool stuff, man. We were having club meetings, having kids come to know the Lord. Kids were coming to, you know, the summer camps that they have, and it was really great. And you know, I just was excited to be part of that, you know, because middle school is a hard time, right? School is a hard time for kids, and so to help kids guide kids through that was just super cool and just so impactful, right? And I think that was what I always wanted, was to be impactful, to make an impact on people. And yeah, so the summer before my my senior year, we had just finished a 5-day long camp, you know, with middle school kids, and it's like hundreds of middle school kids at these camps, man, and it's just so high energy, and it's just nonstop, and it is Christ centered, and it's awesome. But afterwards, you are just
I bet
you are toast. So one of my leaders, she said, hey, look, you know, we normally go to the beach at this week in August, and we'd love the wildlife team to come up and be at the beach. And what a better place to just relax and then download, you know, who had good conversations with which kids, you know, during the week. And that was such a blessing and so awesome to have that. And yeah, so we drove up there the day after camp. You know, that first day we just had a day on the beach, and you know, just exactly what you'd want it to be after a long week like that. And yeah, we were about to pack up. It's like 5:15, you know, hey, let's go dust the sand off. Let's go get something to eat or whatever. And I was like, all right, I'm going to jump in one last time. And so, you know, make it quick. We got to get moving. So I run as fast as I can. You know, the waves are coming at me, and, you know, I dive through a wave like you do so you don't get clobbered. And my head hit a sandbar. My head hit the bottom of the ocean, basically, and there was nothing that slowed me down in that process. I just hit, and I went limp like a rag doll. And yeah, I mean, after kind of being flipped around in the surf, you know, I was conscious. I opened my eyes up, and I saw, you know when Tua got his concussion last season, and his hands were postured, right? You know, and I looked down, and my hands are doing that, and I'm like, what is going on? And you know, I couldn't move. You know, I just felt this just wild electrical like reverberation in my body, and it was so strong that I just couldn't do anything to get out of it. And you know, I was just there in the water, face down, looking at my hands and looking at my feet, just like, what is happening? And I can't tell you everything that went through my head, but I do remember thinking, like, this is not how this is going to end. Like, this is not going to end like this. This is going to end different. And I don't know why, man. I was just like, if I can just move, if I can move anything, I'm gonna get out of this water. And you know, what was wild for me is when I hit, you know, it felt like I didn't hit any water. And then when I came to, I was in about, you know, 3 feet of water, whatever. And yeah, as I'm thinking it's not going to end like this, as I'm thinking, I just need to move a little bit, just a little bit, and I can get out of this water. I just start trying to move my feet, and I'm looking right at them. I'm staring at him like, you better move, guys. Like, we gotta get this thing going. And eventually I could move all my toes, and I was like, this is good. This is a good thing. And
You're holding your breath the whole time during all
holding
this?
my breath. Yeah.
Opening your eyes in the...
Yeah. And my hands are still like up here. I can't, I'm trying to move my fingers, but my fingers are not going to move at all. My toes, I'm like, this is good. And so I'm wiggling my toes, and I'm like, all right, if I can just get my ankles chopping just a little bit, I'm going to start getting out of this water. And after about 10 or 15 seconds of wiggling my toes, I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. I can move my ankles now. Like, I'm going to start getting out of this water. And so I start kind of just trying to walk backwards out of the water. And I don't know how long it was, man.
It probably seemed like forever.
It was wild. It was a while. It was, maybe over a minute. And I started to be able to bend my knees again. And I was like, game on. I'm out of this water. So, I start walking backwards and just, trying to do the best I can to be consistent and looking at my feet and looking at my body. And in those moments, people think like, you must have been like super panicked. And I don't, it's wild. I don't remember feeling that. I remember feeling this like calm, this peace of like, everything is under control. And
Was anybody watching you during this whole time?
I mean, not when I was in the water. I got out of the water, or I got washed up on the shore. This was in Fenwick Island, Delaware. Got washed up on the shore, and I just started calling for help. I got that gasp of breath, and I was like, help, somebody help me. And my team came over. My team of young life leaders. And, when someone tells you, washes up in the surf, tells you they can't move, like that's bonkers stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember looking at them. I was like, I can't move my arms, guys. Like I can't move my arms. Like I can move my legs. I was real glad about that, but I was like, I can't move my arms.
Were you standing or sitting there?
I was laying. I got washed up on the shore.
Okay.
I was laying down. I couldn't move at all, man. Or I couldn't sit up, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just laying there, and my hands were still kind of postured, and I couldn't really get out of that. And I was like, I can't move, guys. And I just remember, I had to say to one of my teammates, I was like, what do I have to say to convince you that I am not joking,
Mm-hmm.
that this is real, that I can't move right now? Like, this is just, because, who would think that would happen?
Yeah.
Right. And, at that point, I kind of saw the fear in all their eyes. And Shadow, you said, was anyone there? Well, I mean, God was there in a big way. There was so they pulled me out of the water. My teammates did. They pulled me out of the sand. And there was a doctor and a nurse who were a husband and wife. And they were walking by as this happened. They saw me get pulled out. They said, we saw you get washed up. And they just go to work.
Wow.
They were like, where are we moving him? Are we going to get him on a boogie board? We got to get him away from the surf. What's our plan of action? And they were professionals. They were skilled, like, and they stabilized my neck, and they were asking me all sorts of questions. And I just remember like shouting out my mom's phone number. Like, I was like, call my mom, let her know that I'm okay. Then I just started getting so much neck pain, and I could start to move my arms a little bit, but just so much neck pain, and just, they reassured me. They're like, look, we got an EMT coming. EMT's going to come and take you to the hospital, and you're going to get there, right? You're going to get there. We're with you. And so in those moments, like, I take a step back and I look, I'm like, man, there was a doctor and nurse right there when that happened. Like, that's wild. What a blessing. What a huge thing in that moment for there's to be someone that can provide that skill. And that was just the first thing in such a long line of God just showing up and being present. And, after something happens like that, you feel, I don't know if y'all have ever got injured, but you kind of feel like, man, this is so dumb. Why did this happen to me? What did I do to contribute to this? And the EMT that I was driving with, I remember talking with him and I was like, hey man, and I'm like boarded, right? I'm like on the board with the neck brace and like, looking straight up at the ceiling, but he's like right over me talking to me, like, it's gonna be all right, man. You're gonna make it. Can you move your hands? Can you move your hands? Yeah, my hands hurt, but I can move them. He's like, all right, good. Keep moving them. Don't move your neck. And I'm like, have you ever felt like you just did something just so stupid that you just messed up your whole life?
Yep.
And I was a 21-year-old kid when this happened. I was 21 years old, 21 years. And I just remember saying that to him and just kind of thinking like it was just this vent, just like, I just have to say this.
Yeah.
And he just goes, man, I just got accepted into PA school. And I also just got my girlfriend pregnant. And, my dad wasn't around when I was a kid, and I'm never going to do that to my children. So I'm turning down PA school so I can be around and see this baby and be a part of this child's life. And I just remember thinking like, whoa, like that's so personal. Like why would but also it was comforting. It was like, he shared with me that struggle. And even though it probably was just like, what do I say to this guy? It was just like, wow, like him sharing was so impactful for me. And there was just this level of like, he has his struggles, I have my struggles, and we can do these hard things. And that was super cool. And we got to the hospital, and it was this like real small hospital in like middle of nowhere, Delaware, and go back for the x-ray. And I'll never forget the doctor coming out. He just goes, son, looks like you broke your neck, and you broke your neck real good. And I just remember my stomach just like hitting my feet, just like going all the way down. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, at this point, I could move around a little bit. My neck hurt really bad, but I just didn't know, I had no knowledge of anything medical at that point in my life. And I don't know, the thought that I had broken my neck really bad just had never, it was just like, what?
Yeah.
And, I had a buddy there with me who was super close with me all throughout college. And in that moment, I was just like, I need my buddy Isaac to be here with me. Like I need to see his face. He doesn't even have to say anything. He's just got to be in the room with me. He's just got to be looking at me. I got to be like, hey, you and I, like, we're here together. You're supporting me. And I had a couple buddies like that in college. I feel like we all had a crew of guys that were just so valuable to us. And he was part of that for me. And, that him being present in that moment, I was like, this also brought me so much comfort, knowing that he was there. And, he was just a person who knew me. He didn't have to say anything. He was just there. And, after that, after kind of processing some of that with my friends, my buddy Isaac and my other teammates there, and I want to say I thank God for them, those teammates that pulled me out of the water. Melissa, John Marshall, I think about you guys a lot. Ryan, Isaac, that was my team. And, we kind of talked about what was going to happen, and they were like, you're going to get medevaced, and you're probably going to need surgery, like, as fast as we can get you there. And, I got on one of those fancy helicopters, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I remember thinking, like, I must be relatively stable when they stopped to refuel halfway. I was like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Things are good. My condition is stable enough that they can gas up this thing. So we got to the hospital, and this whole time, like I said, I've been boarded, my neck's immobilized, and I still have sand in my hair, like
Right.
I'm wearing my bathing suit.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a shirt on. Like I was in my bathing suit. And we got to the hospital, and we get off the helicopter, and they wheel me out. And this was Washington Hospital in DC. And one of the neuro docs comes up, and he's like, all he cares about is like looking at my hands. He's like, can you do this? Can you do this? Can your hands move like this? Can you squeeze my hands? And I was able to do it. And the phrase they all kept saying was, he has no weakness. He has no weakness. And that, I mean, what they meant was I had no neurological weakness. You know, nothing had severed anything to where I didn't have the use of certain muscle groups or, you know, everything was intact. And as a 21-year-old kid who's been on a backboard, I thought that was, and maybe this was the medication kicking in, but I thought it was very entertaining. I was like, hey guys, like I would meet a new doctor. I'd be like, I'm the guy that has no weaknesses. I don't know if you know this about me, but I have no weaknesses. And I mean, obviously, yes, so much vulnerability right there. Or, you know, at that point where I could hardly do anything. But I just remember thinking, like, why do they keep saying this? Like, why is that relevant? And so that night they did an MRI and they said, you know, your options are you could get a halo, right, with the bolts on your forehead and sit sleeping up. And I was like, and they're like, or you could get surgery. And I was like, is it crazy if I would rather have surgery? Like, I don't know. But I just remember that the doc was like, we're going to just see what the extent of the soft tissue damage is. And so they got the MRI back and they were like, hey, look, we're going to do surgery. You're going to need surgery. And we're going to do emergency surgery tomorrow morning. At this point, you know, the injury happened a little bit after 5. Lifeguards had just gone off duty, by the way, when that injury happened, right? No lifeguards after 5.
Yeah.
And so having that doctor and that nurse there was it was just unreal, you know, because there was no one else there. And so, yeah, at that point, it was pretty close to midnight, and they're like, we're going to send your MRI and your x-rays to this doctor. He's going to do emergency surgery in the morning. We want to put you in the ICU tonight, and you're just going to stay there. And man, that was a long night.
Yeah.
That was a long night, you know, still immobilized. They did prop me up, and I remember complaining to the nurse. I was like, look, you can't put me facing the clock the whole night. Like, I can't move my head. Like, that's just not cool.
Right.
And I remember she reached up and she like tried to move the clock, but all she did was like hit it off axis. And I was like, so now I gotta look
Now I'm looking
at an off-kilter clock all night. And that was just a long night, man. It was a hard night too. You know, you're in the neuro ICU, so you know you can hear people who are just in rough shape, not that far from you. You know, that next morning, and I guess that next morning, you know, went into surgery, and they went in through the front. That's this guy here. That's that scar. Yep. I don't know if you guys can see it, but they were in surgery for about 8.5 hours, and the surgeon was just picking out shards of bone just for a lot of that time, and they saw some fluid in my breathing tube, and he was like, we don't have all these bones out, these bone shards, but we're gonna sew them back up, and we're gonna go back in a couple days later. And
Jeez.
It was a long process, and then they did another surgery a couple days later, and they went in the back and got another scar there. And
What part of your neck was broken?
C5 and C6.
So it was easier to go in through the front, huh?
Oh yeah, going through the front was better. It was easier, you know. And some of the nerves at that C5 level are really important to like breathing, and like I was able to breathe throughout the whole thing. I was able to hold my breath, you know, when I hit. Yeah. And you would think when you hit hard, you're gonna exhale, but no, I kept my breath, and so I had that second surgery, and after that, you know, I was in a hard collar for like 12 weeks, a long time.
I want to know how you were able to, or were your eyes burning from opening your eyes in salt water? That's all I could think about.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I wasn't thinking about that. I don't even know. All I remember was like, it was kind of like, you know, when a Jedi's trying to use the Force for the first time. You're like looking at it, you're like, please move, please move, please move. Okay. Like, I'm using all my power here to try to get this thing to move. And I mean, that was just, in that moment, that was just like obviously such a blessing to be able to start moving again. And I spent a fair amount of time talking with the guys afterwards, and that posturing was from like the whiplash that occurred when my head hit and my body, decelerated, and then my head whipped forward and back, and that's why, that neural posturing happened. And so it affected the, upper limbs more than the lower limbs, enough to where I was able to, get my feet moving and get out of there. So
Do you have any concept of how long you were actually, like, from the point of impact, like how long you were in the ocean before you drifted to the beach?
that's a great question. I mean, I felt like I was holding my breath for a long time. I would say it was probably like a minute and a half or 2 minutes till I got like washed up
Yeah.
on the shore again. Washed up like face up. I remember like being washed up, and well, I guess I'll say it this way. I remember being flipped over. I remember a wave flipping me
I was
from
going to
face
say,
down.
yeah.
From face down, because I was pushing with my legs and the wave kind of pushed me.
What a godsend, huh? That wave.
I think about it sometimes, guys, and it just makes me cry.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's totally God made that wave just to flip you over.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder what happened, that husband and wife, like just the events of their whole day to lead them up. Like maybe they caught a certain amount of stoplights throughout that day. So they would get to cross your path right at the exact same time. And that's all God's sovereignty,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't like they were, you go to the beach and you kind of notice who's like parked next to you and stuff. And it's like, we didn't see them all day, or like, they weren't there next to us during the day. And like, they were walking by, and like, they knew what to do.
Have you made any contact with them since?
No. I mean,
maybe they were angels.
It happened. Yeah. August 20th, 2010. So if anyone listening knows any doctors that were there and they helped someone.
What was the beach again?
I was in Fenwick, Delaware.
Yeah. So maybe they'll hear this.
If you know somebody, yeah.
Shoot us an email.
Please. Yeah. I got some people I want to thank.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man. Well, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we come back. Let's hear the rest of the story. Hey guys, I want to tell you about 3 easy ways that you can help spread the Men's Alliance fire. 1, you can leave us a review for this podcast. That's right. Giving us a 5-star rating on our podcast helps elevate us in the rankings, which helps more men find us. So that's one way you can support us. Also, you can go to the merch store and buy a Men's Alliance t-shirt, hat, coffee mug, whatever. Wearing it helps support us by advertising Men's Alliance. And the third way you can support us is by becoming a monthly supporter, a monthly financial donor. $10, $20 a month. We need everybody rowing in the same direction. That will help us grow this ministry and continue to put on more experiences like Start the Fire and Carry the Fire. It'll help us partner with more churches across the country as we grow and help us continue to spread this podcast. So leave us a rating, check out our merch store, and consider supporting us monthly at men'salliancetribe.com. Thank you guys for helping us spread this fire. Welcome back to the Men's Alliance podcast. We're here with Skol and telling us an incredible story about his breaking his neck in the ocean, in the waves. So you're in the point where you've had one surgery. They're telling you they need another surgery to get all the bone fragments out. Pick us up there.
Yeah. I was in the hospital, I want to say for about a week. The first surgery was that first morning I was there, and then the next one was several days later. And I remember coming out of that surgery, they're giving you all sorts of medications, and I'm having these like wild dreams. And I had this dream that I was like I was a knight, right? And I was fighting this wizard, and this wizard cast this spell on me that my armor would weigh whatever, 10 tons or whatever. And I remember I just was like, I can move, but I'm so heavy. And in that moment I woke up, and what I was trying to do is I was just trying to lift my arm. And I was like, my arm is so heavy, guys. And I was so weak after that second surgery. And I forgot to say this, but leading up to that injury, I was a runner. Like I was a long distance runner, and I was training to run my first marathon, the Marine Corps marathon. So the injury happened in August. Marine Corps, I want to say, is October. So I had run, 17 and a half, like 4 days before. I was just so excited to like get up to those higher mileages, and I loved it. I loved running. I loved pushing myself. I loved doing hard stuff. And to go to a point where I was like, dude, I ran 17 and a half and just crushed it like 9 days ago or 10 days ago, to being like, oh, like my
trying to move an arm.
My arm is so heavy.
Yeah.
Like, and it was so humbling in that moment, but it also caused this question of like, I'm not Scott the runner anymore. Like, I'm not Scott the guy who's in shape anymore. Like, my physical strength is not good. Like that's, and I was an athlete in high school, relatively serious athlete in high school. But in college, I started doing hard stuff, and my goal was to run a marathon and to, then shave down my times, and then maybe try to qualify for Boston, maybe do an Ironman. I wanted to do some hard stuff, hard physical stuff, and here I am, just laying in a hospital bed, and I'm like, I can't even like if I like get out of my bed to try to use the bedside commode, because that's after the hospital they're like, if you poop, you get to leave.
That's always the test to see if you're ready to go home.
Are you ready to go?
Can you go to the bathroom?
That's the test.
Never been. Yeah.
So try to keep it that way. And so I just remember like trying to get out of bed and like trying to go to the bathroom. So I want to leave the hospital. And I got up one night, probably twice, and the next day I was like, I can't get out of bed. I'm so gassed,
Wow.
just from trying to get out of bed. And I was so deconditioned from the surgery. And obviously, after that first surgery, they didn't want me to get up and move a ton because they still had stuff to do. So after the second one, it was like, it's time to start moving again. And that process was brutal. It was really hard, and I guess, maybe a point I want to make there is like, a lot of the times we're not afraid to do hard stuff, but we want to choose our hard,
Yeah.
Wow. Ain't that true?
We want to choose our hard. And when we can't choose it, that's hard. That's real hard.
Yeah.
It's easy to do something. And I think Dan Crenshaw's written about this. It's easy to do something hard or go through something hard that you have voluntarily put yourself into.
Absolutely.
And you could voluntarily pull yourself out of it, right? Like running a marathon is a great example. No matter how miserable you are while you're doing it, you put yourself there, and you could stop if you want. But it's total different ballgame when you have no control. Like you're in this against your will, and you can't get out of it.
Yeah. And that was my situation. And I remember they got me down to physical therapy to see how like mobile I was, and like I was so weak. Like they were like, all right, you're gonna go up and down the stairs, and I was like, I can walk to the stair, like I can stand up. Like I think I can stand up. And they get me to the stairs, and I'm like, I can't even get my arms on these stupid stairs, guys. Like, what do you want me to do? And like, I just remember feeling like such like a failure at that point. I was like, I couldn't even go upstairs. Like, oh my God, I'm 21 years old. I've never had a care in the world about my capacity to do anything physically, and I can't function. And that was a huge part of my recovery was kind of learning that. But I don't want to skip past one really important thing for me, and this is the part that gets me really emotional. I can't express how many people prayed for me during that time, and it was thousands of people, maybe 10,000 people. I don't know. There were so many people that reached out to my family and said, we just want you to know every church in our area is praying for your son. We just want you to know everyone at this Young Life camp, all the staff, all the volunteers stopped and prayed for you when we found out about this. And this wasn't just like one church or one camp. It was just like everybody said that. And that prayer was just so powerful. I can't overlook that, what that was, and the power in that. And obviously what that meant to me, was just huge to know that I was being prayed for in this time where I was like, I don't know how this is going to shake out. I don't know who I'm going to be on the other side of this, but knowing that, God was with me and people were praying for God to just his presence to be felt by myself and my family. And, that's how started that rehab process, that rehab process of, going to PT a couple times a week, living in my parents' house my senior year. And, I only stayed there for, I only stayed there for 3 weeks. I sat my parents down. I was like, I'm going back to college, and I need to graduate on time because I need to do something.
Were you walking at that point?
Yeah. So I would say after I got discharged from the hospital, I was able to walk. I was able to go up and down stairs. Man, I just get gassed so fast.
Yeah.
One of the most fun ways someone blessed me during this time was my buddy Will, his mom. She always would have us over when we were in high school, like their house. People would always be at, and they hosted some of the Young Life events. And I would always eat all their fruit snacks. And so his mom, after I broke my neck, she went to the grocery store and she bought one of every fruit snack and gave it to me in a basket. So my afternoon schedule was I would be sitting in my chair. I can't believe this. I was sitting in my chair and I would stand up and I would walk over to the fruit snack basket. I couldn't look down because I was wearing my stupid hard collar.
Right.
I would just reach down and I would walk back to my chair. And like that was my exercise for the afternoon.
So
Hey, that's your reward.
And
every
so
pack was a surprise.
and I would hold them up and be like, no, definitely no, or yes. So it was like, and so I remember I had done it for a couple days, like 3 days or so. And, I was so tired all the time, but I remember thinking like I should walk back today, right? Like I should do a return trip. And I remember standing up and I was like, I'm not going to make it. So I thought, all right, I'm going to, I grew up playing basketball. I played, a little basketball in high school. And so I was like, I'm just going to try to throw this in the basket, from where I'm at. And that's probably like 12 feet away, nothing impressive. And, having shot a basketball for a lot of years of my life and feeling relatively skilled, I throw the fruit snack and it barely cleared my feet. And it was just this indication of like, yeah, Scott, like you physically, there's a long way ahead of you. And but I just kept pushing and thinking, I'm going to be doing a little bit more each day, and I'm going to be trying to focus on, kind of what my goals are. And I went back to school after being home for a couple weeks, and I had a great community of people there that supported me so much.
Yeah, that's what makes a huge difference.
So much. And that was kind of the only reason why my parents were like, you can go. Because I had two guys that, I lived with that cared for me so much and so well. And yeah.
What was your family going through during all this? Like, when was the first time you saw them after the accident?
Oh, gosh. The first time where we could, like, have a conversation without crying was probably, like, when we were, like, talking about getting discharged from the hospital. And then it was, like, a little more logistical. But, like, there were some moments, sitting at the kitchen table, I remember with my mom and dad just being like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I think my health's going to improve, but, like, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad I'm not in a wheelchair. I can use my arms, but there's still a long road. And, I think in a lot of ways it kind of brought my family together just because it was such a miracle. And, but yeah, they let me go back to school. They're like, you can go back. And, I graduated on time. And, I remember at that point just thinking like, I got to use this experience for something and for something good. And I was studying to be a teacher at the time, and I kind of changed my trajectory a little bit in my studies and went to study physical therapy at that point because PT had made such a big difference in my life from going to not being able to walk very far, not being able to throw something 12 feet to being like, I'm going to go back to school. And I did a lot of PT in my recovery, a lot of it, and I got a lot of motion back. Praise God, I can move my neck a lot and really well. And yeah, so I think there's maybe a couple things there, right? Sometimes when we face obstacles, we want to just like learn everything we can to like overcome obstacles, right? I injured my neck. I'm going to do everything I can to learn how to manage this, right? I want to do everything in my power to make this happen. And, there's kind of this self-reliance that I had that now I kind of look at what I was trying to do. And a lot of it was just trying to control and know and try to predict the future. And there's some good to that. But, now being in, and I'll get to this a little later about my time with Men's Alliance, but in Men's Alliance, I kind of see like there was just this lack of faith of God, you kept me alive. God, you gave me the gift of being able to still walk. But I still need to figure out everything that I could possibly do, right? I need to try to control as much of this stuff because I was just fearful. I was so afraid that something stupid would happen. I would get, turn my head too fast and I would get some nerve pain again, or my neck would lock up after sleeping on a pillow the wrong way. And so I really focused on like, I guess I would call it like self-improvement for a while. And I think PT was a part of that, wanting to know how to manage pain. And I think in that season of managing pain, in recovering, there were times where I was very isolated. In Men's Alliance, we talk about isolation being terminal. And, I stepped out of that community that I was at JMU, and I was, in grad school and a newlywed and didn't have a ton of other guys around who were believers. And that was a hard time. It was hard because I didn't have other people to talk about real stuff with. And, I think that's, Men's Alliance has helped me to do that, create these God-centered relationships where we're sharpening each other and do that in a time that is short and intentional and so life-giving. And, I'm so blessed by that. And I remember during that course, I was talking to, I forget if it was one of the doctors or a professor about it. And he was talking about running, and I was like, yeah, I was training for a marathon when I broke my neck. And he was like, you weren't training for that marathon to run it. Like you were training for that marathon to get ready for the rehab that you had to do after that happened. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's probably true. And so,
that's why training is always a good idea.
Yeah. Training is a good idea.
I've heard stories about people, who've lifted weights most of their lives and, been in horrific car accidents and stuff. And it was like literally their muscles that saved them.
Yeah.
You build up armor around yourself that can protect you. And you think about, you thought you were training for a marathon, but you were just getting yourself to a point of better resilience, better endurance, better fitness for who knows what life's going to throw at you. Yeah. Sometimes it's an emergency, or sometimes it's just an event in life that requires us to have that.
You stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
There you go.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you have full range of motion and strength back now? I mean, you're at Men's Alliance. Where are you at now?
Yeah. I mean, pretty close. Like y'all probably wouldn't be able to tell, that I'd had 2 neck surgeries, had we not been talking about it, or if you just saw me on the street. So I've got pretty good motion. I've got some weakness in some areas of my arms. And I know for me, coming out to Men's Alliance, guys are like, it's never the workout that people are afraid of. I was so scared of the workout. I was like, I will go deep with all these people. I will lead a devotion. I will start a fire. I'm so terrified.
I would never say. I was going to say I would never say that.
Who told you that?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that are terrified of the workout.
Yeah.
So scared.
No,
there's people that like won't come out because they're afraid of the workout.
That's the biggest reason they say they don't want to come. It's because I got an injury, or I got my shoulder's not right. When that gets healed up, I'll come up. So that's the biggest excuse why people don't come.
Dude, at All Tribe, there was a guy there wearing a soft collar. He's like, oh, just had neck surgery, and like, Tap. He came out to Bravo in a wheelchair,
Yeah, I remember
with his
that.
walker, as he was healing up, he had a walker, and I mean, yeah, for me, that was just a big obstacle. And again, it was kind of stemmed in that, like, my hard can't be like, I can't choose my hard. I can't be like the guy who does really hard stuff and he's in really good shape. Like, I'm going to be the guy who's probably struggling to do like 10 push-ups, and I'm no longer a jock. Like, who am I? Like, how do I process that? And so coming out to Men's Alliance and kind of seeing other people kind of put those things aside. I remember I listened to that podcast with y'all and Iron talked about how pain can be a prison that you live in or a school that you learn from. And I know for me and the pain I had experienced, that was a very true statement. And I didn't always have a good way to process that pain. What was normal with pain? How do we deal with pain as men, as Christian men? Do we just kind of chew on some Tylenol and keep going, or for me, I just avoided stuff. I was like, I'm just not going to work out.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to exercise again because I don't know where that line is of what I'm capable of anymore. And if it's a lot less than what I thought it was, that'd be so devastating, right? So. I mean, yeah, coming out to MA was really big, and seeing guys kind of push, when you knew that they were recovering from injuries or you knew that they were going through hard stuff physically. And I will also say I kind of skipped over this, but I did run a marathon after the injury.
Awesome.
Which was awesome. I ran the Pittsburgh Marathon, which I don't recommend anyone to make that their first marathon. There's so many hills. But yeah, I mean, that was this understanding of like, God was still empowering me to do hard things, right?
Yeah.
To do challenging things. And I think what changed from when I did that and I had that incredible, feat that God had that victory in my life to when I was like, I don't even know if I want to go out and do some push-ups and burpees. Was just this like feeling of, I don't know what it's going to be like. And I'd rather just kind of not know and not have to face the music and be challenged in that way. And it wasn't until I really started like hearing other men talk about those physical challenges that I was like, hey, Scott, your excuse isn't valid. Like you need to just get out there and just be real and see what you can do.
How long you been with Men's Alliance now?
Started, I think, February of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you get your call sign?
Yeah. So, my call sign is Skol. I love the Vikings. I realized that in Chesterfield, Virginia, people think of chewing tobacco. And I did not think of that when I chose it or when I was voted on. But, I mean, Skol it basically means cheers, right?
Yeah.
And like, for me, having a mindset of thankfulness and positivity is just so crucial all the time. Because, dudes, I have pain that comes and goes, and I have problems with my neck, and it's hard for me to not slip into what's this going to be like when I'm 40? What's this going to be like when I'm 50? I mean, there's this fear that is just so easy to just creep in, and I think we're all kind of that way. There's this fear of the unknown and fear of, are the promises that God says to us real? Like, can we believe them? And I had heard that, fear and gratitude, when you're thankful for things, when you're praising God for things, when you're thankful for things, that is something that helps to just drown out that fear when you look at, who God is and who he says he is and what he says he does and what he does do in our lives. And so, Skol for me was just this admission of like, cheers, God, like you have done so many great things in my life. And I need to be reminded of that. Yeah. I need to be reminded of the good, the miracles that have happened in my life, because you did them and you'll continue to do them. And so, yeah, I think when I chose it, a lot of people were like, Skol, that's kind of weird. But for me, it was just so meaningful. Like, it was just meaningful because I was there. I was with the group. I was exercising. I'm able to walk. I'm able to move. It was, yeah.
Did you,
that's where it comes from.
Do you notice any differences? Is there anything that changed about you? non-physically.
I was so much nicer.
Non-physically. Were you were nicer before the accident?
I was just intense. I mean, you think about the mentality of a 21-year-old who's like, just want to run, just want to get faster, just want to get stronger. It's just, I think I was just very, very directed in the things that I wanted. And I don't think I was as open to hearing, to discussing. I think I was pretty hard lined. And now I think it's definitely softened me in a lot of ways.
So you're nicer now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what about things like patience? Did it like?
Yeah, I have a lot more patience now. I mean, it probably took me like 2 years to like feel myself again after to feel like I'm Scott again after my injury, and that was within that community of people at JMU, and there was so many victories, man. Like so many victories. Like we'd go to the gym, and I'd tell my roommate, I'd be like, dude, I did a pull up today. I did a pull up, and we would just cry. We would just cry. We'd be so excited. I'd be like, dude, I walked to class today. Like, and it was just, it was slow, but I realized that, the struggle was worthwhile, and God was faithful throughout the process.
Were you surprised by like the level of support that you received? Like sometimes I wonder if a injury, God forbid, happened to me.
Yeah.
Would people come to the hospital and be
Sure.
like, oh, we're so glad you're okay? Or would I just be there by myself?
Yeah. I mean, a lot. Yeah. I mean, I was surprised at just how many people came out and just, it blew me away. And people just saying like, we and our entire church and this church have all been praying for you. I mean, that was just mind blowing. It's just like, it was so huge.
Yeah.
Wow. So God used this to change you in a lot of ways.
Oh man.
Inside and out.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to go through that school.
Right.
It's a tough school, man.
Yeah. But one of the things I love that you did is you celebrated all the small victories.
Yes.
I love that, right?
Oh my
you got to
gosh,
celebrate the one pull-up.
Mm-hmm.
You got to throw a party when you walk to class, right? Like everything you did is a milestone, and a lot of people fail to recognize that.
Yeah. I remember I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I shot a 3-point shot and I made it.
Yeah.
Remember when I couldn't throw that fruit snack but one foot? Like, I just threw a basketball through the hoop. Like, and we cried. Like it was just, you got to celebrate those. You got to see that. You have to recognize that. Because so many times I think it's easy to look in our situation and be like, I'm just not. And this happened to me so much. Like, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be. And then all it took was just looking back and being like, well, remember when, remember when this was the reality? When remember when you got back to school and you just had to sit in a rocking chair for the first couple months, and it was like, all right, well, I'm not there anymore. Like, I'm so much further than that now.
And it changed your career.
Yeah.
You literally changed trajectories of careers.
I would say, the same heart is there, right? Like I still love impacting people and providing people just good information, good structure for when they're in a challenging place. I would say there's a lot of similarities there. You're educating people in both senses, right? But yeah, it definitely changed. It changed a lot.
How long have you been a physical therapist?
Since 2016. So
have you helped anybody with a similar broken neck injury?
Dude, it's hard. I wanted to work on the spinal cord unit, and I couldn't do it. There were so many guys like me that couldn't walk.
Yeah,
it was so hard to see. I remember like joining this guy's Facebook group page for supporting him after he broke his neck, and I eventually had to unfollow it because it was just so hard to see.
Yeah,
his story was just so different. But yeah, I've definitely worked with guys after people after they've had neck injuries, and usually it's not a traumatic injury. Some of them are car accidents and stuff. But I think even though it's not the same injury, helping people do basic stuff was just super meaningful to me. Because I remember being like, hey Dad, I need you to wash my hair because I can't put my hands over my head. I can't do that. So I need to get the rest of the sand out of my hair. because we just got home from the hospital. Like,
Yeah.
like I'll remember that. I'll never forget that, you know? And so I think a lot of people, you know, those just that ability to take care of themselves, you know, helping them do that. I'm like, I remember what that meant to me, and to be able to help them. It's great.
Wow.
Have you ever? I know we've all probably cheated death a couple times, and
Yeah.
when that happens, you find yourself asking why. Like, why did God
Yeah.
spare me? You know,
Yeah.
like, have you? It's like, why am I here? He obviously has a bigger purpose for
Yeah.
me that he didn't take
Yeah.
me home. Have you ever tried to figure out what that was?
I mean, I've had a lot of people say, you know, were you depressed afterwards? You know,
Yeah.
you couldn't do the things that you wanted to do. And I think for me, you know, God has me, you know, I'm able to walk, I'm able to function.
Yeah.
I'm living for a reason. You know, that reason is to glorify the Lord and to love
Exactly.
those around me, and
Yeah.
you know, and to keep looking for those opportunities, right?
Right.
To do that with people around me, and yeah, definitely. And
That's great.
I think for me, Men's Alliance has just provided me a place to have those real conversations with people, to love on people, to be that community for people. Like how great would it be when you know someone is going through a trial like that they have that community. Like Men's Alliance, and you know that framework can be provided, you know, through your tribe, and you know that how amazing is that, you know. And that's not anything new, you know. Like right after I broke my neck, I was like, I need my buddy.
Yeah, you know,
I
that's
need
a
him here.
big part of your story was what an incredible support group you had.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to realize that you had already built that.
Yeah.
Right? That's something you build before the tragedy, before
Right.
the storms of life. And, you know, a lot of people find themselves in the middle of a storm, and then they realize for the first time they don't have that.
Yeah.
And then they, you know, try to create it real quick or just can't get it or whatever. And that's why it's important to have a support group, a tribe, a band of brothers. You got to build it when things are good,
Yeah.
when things are fine. And that's a great part of your story. Last question for you
Sure.
is if you could go back to that moment, you're being pulled up onto the beach on the sand. If you could see yourself in that moment, what would you tell yourself now that you've come this far? You've journeyed all the way.
Yeah.
You're better. You're a physical therapist. What message would you give to, what were you, 21?
Yeah.
To that 21-year-old you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, for me, I would say, you know, God is going to be victorious in your life. God is going to be victorious, and God is protecting you now, and God will continue to protect you.
That's good.
It's awesome. I think that's the message for everybody listening to this too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's an absolute truth. Thank you, Skol.
Hey,
Yeah,
glad to
man.
be here, guys. Thank you so much.
I think we got something for you, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hope you like coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed I do.
Got you some Tribe coffee
Oh,
here.
thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to be with us there. And he has no weakness.
I
Oh,
know, you know, no weakness.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
awesome.
it, man. Thank you for sharing your story. I know it's not easy. Asking somebody to share their story is a big deal. It's not something to take lightly, and I appreciate you sharing that, not just with us, but with all the tribesmen
Yeah.
Yeah.
around the country listening. You know, and I think your words that you would say to yourself are exactly the same words we all need to hear. Right? He's with us.
Yeah.
He's with us. He's going to get us through
God
whatever
is
we're
for
in.
you. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man. See you later.
Guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Men's Alliance Podcast with Skol. Powerful story. Take that message, take his words to heart. Whatever you're going through, God's with you. He'll get you through it. Life is always better in a tribe, right? So, guys, get out of isolation. Get out of your comfort zones. Be real about your struggles. Build that band of brothers that you need now before the trial hits. So, guys, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting us. Check out our website, men'salliancetribe.com, to support us. We'll see you around the fire. Thanks for listening to the Men's Alliance podcast. We hope to see you in one of our tribes or at one of our unforgettable weekend experiences. So join us at men'salliancetribe.com.